Anoka Meals on Wheels, a nonprofit organization that I proudly support, delivers more than just nutritious meals to seniors in our community. They deliver connection, care, and peace of mind. Their volunteers don't just drop off food, they check in, share a smile, and ensure our neighbors know they're not forgotten. I know because I am one of those volunteer drivers. Help us keep serving those who need it most. Visit mowanoka.org to volunteer, donate, or learn more about Anoka Meals on Wheels, nourishing bodies and spirits one meal at a time.
From working in his family's Chinese restaurant, to bartending, to becoming present-day owner of Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, my father's true superpower is human connection. Now, he's on a mission to capture the most fascinating stories that make up the Minnesota community. You're listening to the Twin City Tales podcast.
Today, I'm really excited to introduce you to someone who's built her career around something we all need more of: genuine human connection. Marian Cook is co-owner of Archstone Workspace right here in Minnesota, where she's creating more than just office space. She's building community. Marian is also an executive educator at both MIT and Yale, bringing insights from some of the world's leading institutions and helping professionals grow and connect in meaningful ways. I have to give a special thanks to Samantha Peluso from All Things Social for this one. Samantha, during her podcast, said she would love to hear Marian on the show and hear her story. And I'm so glad she did, because what drew me to Marian's story is how intentional she is about everything she does, whether it's her work in education, her approach to business, or the community she's fostering at Archstone. There's always a thread of supporting, helping people, helping them find connection, build resilience, and navigate a world that sometimes makes real interaction harder than it should be. Marian didn't grow up here in Minnesota. She's originally from the Chicagoland area, but she's made this place her home for over the past couple of years, bringing her unique perspective on what it means to create spaces where people can truly thrive. So whether you're someone who loves networking or someone who finds it challenging, whether you're working remotely or feeling that isolation, or you're just curious about how to maintain authentic connections in an increasingly digital world, this conversation is going to be for you. Marian, welcome to the show.
I'm delighted to be here. I've been looking forward to it all day, and I will tell you, I'm feeling a little mischievous, so I hope you're ready for me.
Uh-oh. I am.
Okay, bring it on.
I actually love all those little reels that you've been doing to promote Halloween coming up and the different things you're getting involved with, like some of the giving back to the community.
I have been, so we run an incubator at Archstone for startup businesses, and we have a daily video challenge. So you just create a video on anything. And I'm on day like 78 of a 30-day video challenge, and I'm just having fun. You know, sometimes you just got to lower your standards and let it rip. So I'm glad you're enjoying them. I'm having fun doing them.
Yeah, and it's really about consistency too. I think that's the hard part.
Absolutely,
sometimes.
absolutely. As business owners, there's a lot of pressure coming at you from every direction.
Yeah.
And it's hard to maintain that consistency. But doing the videos has been just a little bit of whimsy and fun, and I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. And for you coming from Chicago area, what was it like growing up in Chicago?
So I grew up outside of Chicago, have worked in Chicago quite a bit, and loved it. I mean, we were in a suburb, very stable family. My dad had the same job for 35 years or whatever. He's a scientist with Argonne National Labs, and mom, stay-at-home mom. And it was just a very stable, loving place where we were allowed to roam free. I mean, it was like hands-off feral parenting. We just were running across the fields and climbing the trees, and it was a good place to grow up.
So, in the Chicagoland area, where about? Like, was it towards Gary or? south side and north sides.
Do you know where, like Naperville and Oak Brook,
Yes,
Downers
yes.
Grove, out that way?
Schaumburg,
Yes.
Bolingbrook.
Yeah.
It's almost like the southwestern part of the
Well, straight west.
straight west.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So then it was just new subdivisions. It's all built up now, but
Yeah.
literally, I was playing, and when they were building other houses, we were playing in the dirt when they were pulling out the foundation, and we were one of the first homes on the block.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we love going out there every year, or once a year or so. Just the culture out there is pretty cool. And I remember when Bolingbrook was so far away, right?
Right,
Like
right.
they
It's
didn't
the
have
Wild
the
West.
train.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then I think in the last 20 years they had train service out there. So
Right. It's solid suburbs now.
yeah,
When I was there, Downers Grove was separate from Naperville. There was space in between. In fact, at the end of our street was an old farmhouse, right? That they bought from the farmer and made the homes and all of that. So it was very, very stable and free, and a great way to grow up. I always had my knees were skinned, and I was always out. Never watched TV. None of that.
Funny, I got to go to Naperville back in the 80s because they were opening up a Bennigan's
Sure.
in 87, 86.
Oh,
and
that
I got
was
to go down there
wild times.
help start the bartender, because I'd been working up here at this Bennigan, so they sent me down there to help that get started.
Sure,
So
sure.
I wasn't a manager, but man, those were fun times in Chicago.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and you've done you growing up when you were you've been an executive educator at MIT and Yale. Tell me a little bit about that.
So we'll back up a little bit and ramp up to that. Because,
Okay.
Because I mentor a lot of young people, and there's always a lot of anxiety. I had it as well in terms of what you're going to do with your life. What should your job be? And I'm not going to walk you through my LinkedIn profile, my resume. It is long, but I'm having a blast of a career, and I have no intention of stopping, by the way. So my career philosophies that I share with the students that I teach is there's a couple of things. First of all, I started my career as a manufacturing systems engineer with IBM. And there was a situation where the previous systems engineer, the client said, if that person comes back on our property, we're going to call the police. So a little bit of client dissatisfaction, let us just say.
Yeah.
And so I was in a team meeting, and the manager says, who wants that client? And I raised my hand because I realized that there was no way I could fail. If I failed, people were expecting me to fail. So it was like I couldn't lose, right? But if I could turn this client around, that it would make, be a great brand to have. It would be a great skill to have. It'd be a real a feather in my cap if I could take someone who was that upset and turn them around. That's what I wanted to do. So it took me about 2 years. But I turned them into a national showcase account where IBM was flying clients in to talk about IBM and the solution and all that. And it's not because I'm magical. I'm not a unicorn, none of that. I just did what I said I was going to do. If I didn't know something, I admitted it and got the right resource in place. And I was there at 2 a.m. installing things with them. So it's common sense things, but they weren't common practice. So but by just being authentic and true and transparent, I was able to turn it around. And then from the big aha from that was, oh, this is a fabulous skill to have. So other people would walk away from problems, I would lean in. So I would literally find things that were in the off the rails projects or business units as I got farther in my career, or businesses that were off the rails, and I turned them around. And that's a beautiful challenge, a wonderful skill set that creates incredible opportunities to be able to do that. Now, another foundational thing that I tell my students that was key in my own career growth is when I was at IBM, I was there for a couple of years, and they started having layoffs. And this is when layoffs were not as common as they are now. It was certainly new to IBM. And I saw a lot of people in their 50s and 60s get laid off who were not expecting that because it never happened at IBM before. And they were really caught off guard. And they had to pull their kids from college or sell their houses and all kinds of things because they had made decisions thinking that that was a stable income. Now, I'm right out of college, right? And I looked at that and I thought, you know what? Not this chick. You're not going to catch me like that. And so I was very aggressive about building my skill set. So if you do take wander through my LinkedIn profile, you will see you're going to go, what is this chick doing? Because my guiding principle was I wanted to do things I'd never done before. So every job I took, at least 50% of it, I hadn't done before. And I was honest about it. I didn't fake it till you make it or any of that.
Right.
But I did not want to be the kind of person who had been in corporate America and would say, I've been in purchasing for 30 years, when in fact it was the same year 30 times. Right?
Right.
So their salary's going up, but their value is either plateaued or going down, but they don't realize it. And in the marketplace, their value was going down. In their own organization, they may have had that value because they had the social capital and know how to get things done. But, people who are looking at spreadsheets don't see that. That doesn't show on the spreadsheet. So I wanted to make sure that I was always, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I was always involved in technology and business, and technology fascinates me.
Yeah.
It's where the action is, right?
Yeah.
And so because of that, I have had a lot of fabulous experiences, thoroughly enjoy the work that I do. If I get bored, just like you, it's like, no, I want something new, right? And that's really just served me so well. A lot of people get stuck. They think, I don't know what I want to do. Like they have to come up with some sort of grand answer or some final answer. To me, it's just try something, create options, just try some stuff. Don't be paralyzed. Just get out there. So also what has allowed me to do this, I won't swear on your show. So is something that I call FU money. So very early in my career, I made sure I had enough money such that I could walk from any job. I didn't have to do anything I didn't want to do. I never used that money. I never walked on a job. But knowing that I didn't have to take anything from anybody, it shows up in how you present yourself and how you act, right?
Love it.
So I tell my students, if you have to eat beans and rice for 3 years, you do it because it will give you freedom later.
Right.
So where was I? All right. So I've been all over. I've worked at IBM, loved it, did a lot of strategy, business process, a lot of systems work, coding, all that sort of stuff is a great base to have, teaches you how to think. And then when IBM moved into consulting, I jumped in on that because I saw it was something new. I could see the profit margins were higher in it. It's where I wanted to be. It serves my persona because I do like change. When people retire, they move off to Florida. When does the weather change? I want change. I want it all. I want a good blizzard in the face every once in a while. I really do. I want some challenge. I want a little bit of struggle because that's what makes you stronger. It makes you resilient, even if it's just a blizzard in the face, which is relatively harmless if you've got, provisions in the car. You're too crazy about it. But, I like that sense of challenge. So ended up running somebody else's consulting firm, did a turnaround there, started a digital strategy practice for another consulting firm. And that's funny. When I moved from one to another, I went from managing 400 people to managing none because I had to start it up. My mom was like, well, you're not managing people. Isn't that a demotion? I was like, no, Ma, I'm free. But ended up managing a lot more people after that. But that was a great experience. I got to learn how to start something up on someone else's dime.
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful? Right?
Absolutely.
So ended up doing, ended up being a CIO, all kinds of different positions, had my own firm. And then because of some work I had done, first of all, I had gotten involved. I'm very civically oriented. I feel like we should pay attention to more than just ourselves. We have to create a platform for everybody, right?
Yeah.
All that infrastructure things and all that. So I ended up being asked to be on Mayor Daley's, that's at the time the mayor of Chicago, his technology advisory council. Very interesting. I would really recommend that people get involved in these civic things. Like right now, I'm involved with the chamber and really enjoy that. And got involved in all kinds of issues around bringing technology to economically depressed areas and all kinds of great things that let you see things from a bigger perspective outside of your own bubble. Really enjoyed that. Went off to do some other things. And eventually I got asked to join the state of Illinois as the Chief Strategy Officer for Innovation and Technology for the state of Illinois. I'm getting to MIT and Yale, I swear to God.
No.
Story
This is great.
No,
this is great. I love this.
So came in. So if my philosophy is to run to problems, not from them, then the state of Illinois was like the mothership. And I told the governor I only want to be there for 2 years because I didn't want government as a career. But boy, what an illuminating experience that was. Because I don't know, do you know the cartoon Dilbert?
Yes.
Okay, there's a guy there called Wally who walks around with a coffee cup and
Yep.
does nothing. And he always talks about taking an in-cube sabbatical.
Yeah.
So when I came into government, that's what I thought government workers were, right? Wally, not doing anything, in-cube sabbatical. I was very wrong. I misunderstood it completely. So many of the people in government are really passionate about what they do. And they are held within certain constraints that have historical roots. Like I would look at some of the procurement things and some of the things that were going on. I'm like, well, why are you doing it that way? Well, because 40 years ago, they got sued because of the. So they operated, I think, a constrained environment, but they get very creative within that, and they are mission driven. So, I tell people you need to drop that perception of government workers that's negative. Sure, there are people with issues, and sure, that kind of system has its own set of problems, but I overwhelmingly found that people were operating. They were mission driven, but constrained a bit, right? And a good example of that would be we were doing some new projects, some great stuff, and I wanted people to lead it. And I thought, this would be a great opportunity for their career. And I'm used to in the private sector, people tugging on your sleeve going, hey, I want to be on the next technology. I want to be on the next whatever. But these people were like rolling back. And I was like, well, I've never had this happen before. These are great opportunities. Well, it's because if they go into management, they are no longer in the union and they're no longer protected. And if they're not protected and a new governor comes in or something else comes in, then they could get whacked.
Yeah.
All right. So isn't that interesting?
That is.
It makes sense.
It does. And it holds back great ideas or some people that
Right.
can lead at a high level.
Right.
So with that being said, that people, because we want security, I think just generally people want security, but if they're going to move on to a job that I might not have security, but I have a lot of great ideas on how to lead the organization, I think a lot of people would say, I'd rather take the security.
Well, because when you get fired, in my opinion, that's an attack against your family, right?
Yeah.
When somebody loses their job, their whole family, their foundation is ripped off. And I've had to lay people off and I've had to fire people. And I take it very, very seriously. But, cavalierly, firing people or saying, I'm going to lay off I have very strong feelings about the right way to do that. Sometimes it needs to be done. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's because the CEO at the very top did a bad job. The organization misgrew. They didn't realize that the market had changed. Now it has to move this way. And so, but these people are going to pay for that. They didn't make that decision. Right. So I like I said, I've had to lay people off. I've had to fire people. I take it incredibly seriously. And I just hope everybody else who's in that position does as well.
Yeah.
So when somebody's stepping into the fire line, in politically, a new governor brings in new people.
Yeah.
So you're almost holding your head up to have a problem, right? Because they can do, so I was really had a lot of fun at the state of Illinois. I have a much more rounded view as a citizen of what it takes to run something like that. It is deeply flawed, as we all are.
Yeah.
Right? There are things that have to change. But I really enjoyed the work. We had massive projects going on, $250 million systems implementations. I was part of the team that created the first blockchain strategy for a state in the United States, and that's what got me on MIT's radar. Okay, so I told you.
I was going to come around.
I told you I was going to come around. So what actually happened was MIT works with a company called 2U, which is a platform company, and they run their online executive education through 2U. Right. Okay. So I work with MIT classes on emerging technologies like AI and blockchain. I also do their exponential leadership class and their corporate innovation and innovation ecosystem class. The blockchain and the innovation piece came as a result. I got on the radar, as I said, because of work I was doing at the state, I was responsible for developing, building, strengthening the innovation ecosystem in the state of Illinois. Right. So that was a nice fit for that MIT class. And then I ran several gubernatorial advisory boards and bringing people together to do that sort of thing, which really does tie into the co-working work that I do. I'm a big believer in ecosystems. So as a result, I ended up doing those. I'm what's called a head program instructor. I wear two titles, so I was like kind of struggling. Head program instructor, facilitating those classes. And I'm not on the faculty. I don't want to say I'm on the faculty there. Then also for Yale, I've done a lot of leadership development programs. I do their women's leadership development program. That's online. So I am a head program instructor for that. And then I'm a head managing instructor, which means I have about 20 of those people that report to me also. And then I get involved in a lot of different strategic initiatives. So I started part-time doing those 2 MIT classes through 2U while I was working full-time. And then I left government and I went and I started the Emerging Technologies and Innovation practice for Slalom in Chicago. It's an international consulting firm. Did that for a while. And then 2U came to me and said, hey, we'd like you to do more. And so did that. And I wanted to become a digital nomad and be able to go wherever I wanted to go. So that fulfilled that. Now COVID came along and we all became digital nomads. And now we all aren't. I don't know where we are. But anyway, so I told you it was a long and winding story.
Hey, that was good. A good way to get to it, though.
Yeah.
And it just opened up so many other questions for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I just have like a couple things off the top of my head. So technically, I just learned this the other day, actually, because I'm not always that smart, but I found out what an adjunct professor was. That's kind of like what you are.
So I forgot about something. I'm an adjunct professor for IIT, Illinois Institute of Technology. I teach their digital transformation class. It's for their executive MBA program. So when we talked, so on the weekends, I have to go into Chicago for 8 weeks for their executive MBA, which is the shorter semesters, not the 16 weeks, but the 8 weeks. So I'm an adjunct professor for them.
I did not know what an adjunct professor is. My wife had to tell me that it was somebody who's actually at the school as a professor, but not a tenured professor, but they could be there for years, but they're really not a tenured professor, which is kind of cool. I just thought, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I fell into that job. I fall into things all the time, but that's because I'm just out there trying stuff, right? And I have positive energy, and people want to be around people who are positive. Right?
That's really good advice.
It is very, very true.
Very solid.
I do a lot of public speaking, and I was on a panel at IIT, and in the audience was the assistant dean of the School of Business, and afterwards he came up and offered me the job.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
I wasn't looking to do it. It wasn't ever,
So talk about more layers of what you just said. One of the things that popped in my head right away when you started talking about that was you were an engineer at the beginning.
Yeah.
And, and I don't get too political on this show, but I feel like sometimes I do. But as we all know, like up until like even the 70s, right? Like women could not have like their own like credit card, or they'd have to have their husband sign for it.
Wild.
And like women back then, especially in the technology field, was really overlooked. Like, can you really do that work? And that, what was the movie that we just saw where they sent it was the mission, the moon mission, and they had a black lady who was very disrespected in that group, but
Hidden
she was
Figures, was that the name of it?
Yes,
yes.
Yeah. And I can see it. Was it a little like that when you were?
Well, I'll tell you, one of my great skills I will own is I have a great sense of humor. And so I would come into these situations where I was always the only woman in the room. And literally, so this is the 80s. Literally, if I got near, I'm not kidding, when I got near the coffee pot, the guys expected me to pour. Now, you have a decision to make when you're in a situation like that, right? Well, first of all, I quit drinking coffee because I'm like, I go near that pot. But when a guy, I don't think anybody's doing it with malice of intent, right? Maybe some, but for the most part, there were some habits and rituals that were, kind of fossilized that needed to be broken.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to pick a fight with a
Yeah.
customer,
Yeah.
right? So, so when they would ask me to pour, I would pretend like I misheard them and said, "Oh, no, thank you. I don't drink coffee." Right. But I wasn't,
Right.
I had, customers who were trying to put me in inappropriate positions. And I would say, well, haha, I draw the line at my hem
Yeah.
when I wore skirts.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just became incredibly competent. I outlearn and outwork everybody. And that's not me saying I'm special. I'm not saying I'm super smart. But I will lean in like you won't believe, right? So the best defense in a situation like that is to know your stuff,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I put in tons of hours and I learned it, and I took a joy in that, right? I grew up in a somewhat academic household. My father has got a PhD in mathematics from the University of Chicago. He's a mathematician. He's well known in his field. My mom, before she got married and had us kids, she worked a comptrometer, which is kind of a mechanical thing before a computer, right? So there were just books everywhere. We got read to all the time, so that's just like, for me, that's a joy.
Yeah.
But I never looked at it as woe is me or aren't they
Yeah.
jerks. It's just, it is what it is. And there's a way to handle it that worked for me, that was authentic for me. I would laugh it off and I knew my stuff.
Yeah.
And I do remember kind of a funny story. I was at a certain level in IBM, and I just don't pay attention to these things. I'm not like politically oriented. Like, things are, maybe people's backs are getting stabbed. Maybe I had some knives in my eye. I didn't even know. I'm just doing my thing.
Right.
Right. And I was on a plane for a business trip, and I started talking to a woman next to me because, I'm shy. And we were talking about, getting promoted and all that. And she was upset because she felt she deserved a promotion. She hadn't gotten it. And we started talking. And then I started realizing, oh my gosh, all these guys that I trained are getting promoted ahead of me. And my customers are happier than their customers are, right? So on the metrics, it didn't make sense. And I'm like, oh, what's going on here? So again, I had a choice. I could come in with my dukes up or not. And what I did was I walked into my manager's office and I said, I've been looking, I talked to this woman and I've been looking around and thinking about, well, I noticed that, these guys, I trained them, and they got promoted, and I haven't gotten promoted yet, but I know I'm ranked higher in terms of customer satisfaction and all these other metrics. And I would really like to understand what's going on. I don't think it's sexism, but, I'm just looking at this and just very puzzling. Not, don't let people anger go up, and don't let them lose face. Right.
Right.
Just, I don't know. Could you take a look at it for me, and I'll think some more about it. And I don't know, let's talk at our next meeting. 2 weeks later, I got promoted.
You really, just hearing you really know how to, I'm looking for the right word, diffuse things without it getting to escalate. Because
Right.
it's so easy from a perception of like, I'm getting screwed over. I need to speak my piece. I'm not going to be pushed around. But there's a certain way
Right.
of really handling it and diffusing situations and getting what you want with the art of just being curious. I think that's always a good way to start. They always say
Give 'em a
leadership
little, give a
is a
little
good way
room.
to, yeah,
Like, if you come in with your dukes up, what's the other person going to do?
right.
Their dukes are coming
They're
up
gonna
too.
get
Right.
defensive.
And I don't know if it's the right way or the wrong way or whatever. It just worked for me. Right.
I think there's something to that. I think, I read quite a few books on leadership, and I think part of it is you never want to come in like directing everything. And I tend to do that sometimes. I think we all do as leaders, and we forget. But sometimes if something goes wrong, the best way to do it is coming with a curious level of questioning.
Help me
not so much-
understand.
yes.
Help me understand. That's a
And I
great
think
phrase we
you-
should all have tattooed somewhere.
Yeah. And I think you've learned that at,
Yeah.
at a certain point. So
Yeah.
no, that's all good stuff. And what I was saying was like, when you start talking about your story, I'm like, there's so many layers to peel from what you talked about, your civic duty. One of the things that made me really think about what you said was we need more people like that really consider like part of me is my job is to be part of the
Right.
society and have
Right.
great, because we had, I don't know if Travis Petchel on this show,
Mm-hmm.
and he ran for mayor. And the only reason why he ran for mayor of Chicago City was the mayor has been running unopposed for like a while.
Right.
And he believed that even though he wasn't sure if he really cared to get the job, he just believed in our society, in a
Right.
democratic society, that no one should run unopposed.
Right.
And so he did it. And apparently, I guess he got almost 30% of the vote.
Way to go.
And as
Way to
as
go.
as the challenger, not the
Mhm.
incumbent,
Right.
which is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
But I think it's all our duties to try and make our society better, right? And get involved in government some way. But, it's not for all of us. But I think at least if you need to stay in the know of what's going on more locally sometimes than you do
Absolutely,
nationally,
yeah.
because that affects people the most.
Right. Oh,
in your
absolutely.
neighborhood.
And I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've been so wrong about many things. It's very easy to leap to conclusions about something you don't know. Right. But by getting inside government or being on a chamber or, being an advisor to the mayor, it's like, oh, guess what? They're not all idiots and jerks. You know what? There's a
Right.
story here. There's a reason why. And, I want to make a positive dent in the universe wherever I can.
Yeah. And assumptions are always the worst, right?
Oh,
So
yeah. I have
that's-
caught myself so many times thinking something about some person and it wasn't right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you end up like going from that to like being co-owner of Archstone Workspace?
Okay. So I'm able to do my job remotely, and I was working from home, and I've worked in co-working spaces in the past, and hadn't really thought of it yet of doing anything with that. And I have a son who's high functioning autistic, and he was having trouble getting traction in his career. So delightful, hardworking gentleman. You've met him.
Yes.
Yes. But he was having trouble getting traction. And so I thought, okay, I need to get out of the house. And so does he. He needs to, get he had some jobs, et cetera, but he wasn't getting traction. They weren't moving him forward, in any particular direction. And we were looking for something that we could partner on. So we have this, as of, it's actually almost 2 years now since we opened Archstone. Now, a lot of people don't know what a co-working space is. And a co-working space is executive offices that you can rent monthly, and conference rooms and event space and open space, sort of like your own private coffee shop where you can sit down and do work. And I remember before we came up with this idea, I had gone to Panera Bread to do some work. You see people with laptops, and I'm on a phone, being all businessy. And a soccer team comes by. You can't get mad at them, but that's not the kind of professional environment I particularly wanted to project, right? So for the person who, you mentioned in the introduction, who is a remote worker from a corporation or a freelance or whatever, it gives people a professional place, because we do we mail, package pickup, we receive people at the front, and now they're part of a community. Right now, there are so many factors at work that are driving this isolation issue, this loneliness epidemic that we're seeing. Everything from sort of the American mythology of you have to do it, you're on your own. You have to have your own house with your own little yard with all these walls up. You only know you don't know anybody on your street potentially, right? Because you're just going in and out the garage with your car, and then you also have smartphones that are just cheap dopamine fixes that are in fact sucking your life away, in my opinion. So people are losing their social skills. I see it in my students, right? When you think of you and I when we were in high school, how many social interactions we had face-to-face, where we got rejected face-to-face, where we had conflict face-to-face, where we had to influence someone face-to-face. And then you take the high school student of today, they haven't had that training. All they know is they have had some, they do interact at school, but they're used to having if you say something I don't like, well, I'm just going to block you. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, what does that mean? That means I never learned how to deal with conflict. I never learned how to influence people. I never learned how to present my point of view in a way that's good for both of us. So then if my norm is just to block somebody I don't like, then I lose a lot of those skills over time. And I think that that's very bad. And it creates, I think, a lack of resilience. So now if somebody rejects me face to face, it's it hits me. Whereas if you told me something, I'd be like, yeah,
Right.
bring it.
I suppose it depends on the person that is,
After all this nice talk about me being nice in conflict, but
and for a guy, if the guy is insulting me and he's 6'5" and about 250 pounds in muscle, I'd be like, yeah, maybe I'm going to learn how to back out of this one.
Right. That's a good skill to have.
Right.
You assess the person and then you make a decision. But we're all the same size on our phone.
Right. Good point.
Right?
We are, aren't we?
So,
And it seems like people are tougher with texting, right? And you don't hear context, and
you don't know if I'm
tougher.
smiling or crying or upset when I'm punching that thing out to you. You don't have that context, like you said.
Yeah, you're not hearing the tonality of it, and I think you're right. There's a certain amount of the kids these days that did have the texting and the emails, and there's no tonality or no face-to-face interaction. That muscle memory, for lack of a better term, never gets developed.
Right. Or not to the degree that it needs to. There's an immaturity in that. So I will tell you, with my MBA students in Chicago, in the past, I had a project where they picked a company they wanted to work for, and they had to research and do all this kind of stuff. On the end of the semester, they presented, okay, well, ChatGPT comes along, right? So it's like, okay, they can do that in an afternoon. And it was really funny when ChatGPT first came out. They were like so gleeful. Look at it. It's like, you're not learning a thing, right? So you're look, I'm ignorant. Look, I didn't have to think at all. Like, what? And I'll get to that in a second too. But so I revamped everything. So now students will say, tell me in their introductions, what job they want to get, what kind of people they need to meet, what industry, et cetera. And I tell them, okay, now you have to go out and interview those people for this project on digital transformation. And we shape this whole thing. And their eyes get big as saucers. And one of them's like, you mean I have to talk to people? Yes. I tell them my goal is for me to be the professor that they hate today, but love in 5 years. So if, to get you out there, right? It's very safe with your phone. Now you get out there and you get beat up, right?
Right.
You get rejected and you learn to be resilient. And one of the things that I tell my students is that one of the big impacting things I did was when I was really young, I was at IBM at the time, and I was thinking, I don't have a network at all. I have nobody that I can learn from outside of IBM. I knew the people in the cubes next to me, but I really didn't know anybody else. So I'm like, okay, so what do I need how do I build a network? And a lot of people build their network around something that, has particular meaning for them. Like, for example, maybe they've been affected by cancer, so they join something that, contributes to that. I took a look at, in Chicago, there's a magazine called Crane's Chicago Business. And every year they publish the 100 most powerful people in Chicago. Now, you could argue with the list, but it's a list. And they would give a little bio of the person. And they'd say, okay, Jane Doe, head of Doe Construction Firm. This is her background. She went to this school, and she belongs on these boards and these charities. And all I did was I tallied up where all these people belonged, were involved, and then numerically just counted up and found the top 5. And then I took a look at that, and I said, okay, of those 5, which do I care about, right? So one of the in the top 5 was the Lyric Opera of Chicago. I don't care about opera. You can't make me care about opera. It would have been very inauthentic for me to be involved in that. But the Field Museum of Natural History, well, I love science. So I got involved in this organization within the Field Museum that actually its goal was to develop scientific talent in Africa. When the Europeans colonized Africa, they did not develop any local talent, and then they packed up and left, and there was no institutions to create the talent, scientific talent there. And it's the most biodiverse continent that's on the planet. And so this group was responsible for this. The African scientists would come and propose things, and we would we would grant them money. What a freaking blast that was. I'm telling you, it was so fascinating. And here I am sitting with some of the most powerful people in Chicago, and we are connecting over a third shared passion. It wasn't like, hi, my name is Marian Cook. Here's my business card. can you do business with me? No. Like, give me that card back. I don't have that many. I got to save them. Because prior to this, my involvement with networking had been, I would go to these events and there'd be 200 people and there'd be these people in the middle who were throwing business cards at each other. And I'd be like clinging to the wall with my cocktail weenie, looking at my watch going, can I go now? Can I go now? I mean, it was just total crap, just totally ineffective. But by finding out where those people were and having the intersection of what I cared about made all the difference in the world. And that's how I ended up getting it, because I also know my stuff. They say it's not what you know, it's who you know. You need to know your stuff.
Right.
And you need to know people.
Right.
I'm not skipping that first step. Right. Because of that, I built this incredible network of wonderful people. That's how I got invited onto the Mayor's Council of Technology Advisors. And that's eventually how I ended up working for the governor. That had no idea any of that was going to happen, no planning whatsoever, but always looking for what's new, what's next, being authentic. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it, putting a lot of goodness into the universe, and it just comes around in weird ways somehow back. I don't know. So,
wow. Yeah. And man, when you're telling me about this, and I'm learning a lot more about you just in this conversation, one of the things that I really thought was really cool that you started up at Archstone was the incubator program.
Right.
Could you tell us a little more about how that came about? And I think it's a stroke of genius, especially helping newer businesses.
So there's kind of two things within Archstone. One of them is Morning Brew and Big Ideas, so hold on to that one. We'll talk about that in a second. The incubator program actually came out of some work that I had done before I was involved with the state of Illinois, working with 1871, which is one of the top incubators in the United States. It's in Chicago. 1871 is actually the year of the Chicago fire, and it's the year that they rebuild. And skyscrapers had been invented at that point, so it was the rebuilding of this whole city. So that's the thing of it. And I had started working in the startup community because I knew I wanted to start my own business someday, right? So this is a way of seeing what the resources are, and working with startups is just a blast. It's just a blast. So I had been starting doing some work there. And then we opened, many years later, we opened the co-working space. And I could see a lot of people who were struggling and needing support, because we're not supposed to be alone. We're not supposed to be alone. We think we are, but we're not built that way. What's the worst thing a person can do in prison? It's when you're in solitary confinement. It drives people crazy. We are social animals, and we need to acknowledge that. And when you are surrounded by people who are go-getters, who have some of the problems you have, maybe they have other problems, and you're all talking and collaborating, progress is made, joy is had. I mean, it's a lot of fun. So the incubator program itself is 3 months. They get professional workspace. When I was working from home, I'll be danged if that refrigerator wasn't always calling my name. There are all kinds of distractions. I'll just start that load of laundry. I'll just make that call. And to, get people out of their homes in a professional work environment, surrounded by these go-getters. And for 3 months they have have the co-working space. They have unlimited use of conference rooms, unlimited use of event space. So they can have masterminds or hold, seminars or whatever it is they need to do. And then we have weekly workshops. So they're getting, education through, there's structure to it. Because I think people thrive under structure. A lot of people think that it's an insult to their freedom-loving ways or whatever, but actually structure is good for people. And so we go through what's your vision and your mission, and what's your business model and your target client and your value proposition, and what should your social media look like, and all. But it's structured, et cetera, and it's very, very collaborative. So it's a great way to create community. One of the things we want Archstone to be is a vibrant part of the business ecosystem, and this is a way that we can do that. Right. And then also by having my son involved, he gets to be surrounded by these go-getters. I mean, it's very inspirational. Entrepreneurs are a special breed. It is not for cowards, right?
Absolutely.
It's not glamorous like you see on Shark Tank or whatever.
Yeah.
It is hard, risky work.
Or the other way I look at it is you're just too stupid to fail. So you just get punched in the face and get back up and do it again.
I have failed spectacularly. Name out. But because I had FU money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And more people should think that way with FU money because it really does.
It makes all the difference in the world. You don't have to take crap.
Yes.
If you don't want to. But, I never used it.
Yeah.
Which is even better because it's a beautiful thing too.
Just remember, you can't take it with you though.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go on a mad spending spree in about 20 years because I don't plan on retiring soon. And then the other thing that we do is we have the Morning Brew and Big Ideas, and that'll be starting up again in January. And I think there's a hunger for more meaningful conversation and connection, more than the business. Hey, me giving my 30-second commercial at a chamber event is meaningful. And giving business cards, et cetera, that's great. But there's also another side. I think we're hungry for more intellectual, face-to-face interactions.
Yeah.
We all have our rabbit holes we go down on the internet on things that fascinate us. But who do we talk to about it? Actually talk to about it, right? And one of the things I've taught over the course of my career has been around things like strategic thinking and critical thinking and, ethics and all, things like that. And people they absolutely are, based on demand, hungry for that. So people can come together and you're networking when you come into that conversation, but you're having a conversation with somebody about ethics. Okay, we put a situation. Okay, how would you handle that, right? So we've done things on how to learn, because a lot of times nobody gets taught how to actually effectively learn. So it's these big ideas and coffee and donuts. It's a beautiful thing. It's all my favorite things.
Exactly. Very nice. Yeah. Very nice. No, a lot of really good stuff. Man, that your story is really interesting, and you've seen a lot. And I think one of the things that we'll stop and take a break, but before we go, I'm going to ask you one political question, then we can answer it when we come back from the break.
All right.
Is a little political, but since you said 1871, the Great Fire.
Yeah.
And I think it was in the news and everything, and they finally acquitted her, Mrs. O'Leary's cow. It's not her fault. So when we come back, let me hear your answer on that one and what you're thinking.
I gotcha.
We'll be right back. Is your home's electrical panel stuck in the past? Flickering lights, trip breakers, and burning spells are warning signs you can't ignore. Outdated panels can't handle today's power demands and pose serious safety risks to your family. From smart homes to electric vehicles, your family deserves reliable, safe power. Our licensed electricians upgrade your panel to modern code standards, preventing dangerous outages, electrical fires, and costly emergency repairs. Don't gamble with your family's safety. Trust the experts who've been serving homeowners for years. Upgrade your electrical panel today and invest in your family's future. If you're enjoying this show, we'd really appreciate it if you could take a second to hit that subscribe button. It helps us reach more listeners and local business owners to get their stories out. And if you're feeling extra generous, leaving us a rating or a review would mean the world to us. It only takes a minute, but it really does make a huge difference in our local business community and help other people discover the show. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Twin Sea Tales for behind-the-scenes content, episode updates, and more.
Hit like and subscribe. There, try to help you.
And we are back with Marian, and the important question was, do you believe Miss O'Leary and her cow was the cause of the whole thing, and they acquitted her under false understandings, or do you think that it was the right thing to do was acquit her?
It was the right thing to do. And I grew up and we would sing the Chicago Fire, Miss O'Leary song and all that. But let me tell you what recent science has found. We're going to turn this into a science show. All right. So this is Lake Michigan, right? And let's see, that's Lake Michigan. And here is Chicago, right? Well, it turns out that what they believe now what happened was a meteorite exploded over the lake and sent hot rocks, flaming rocks, into Chicago, but also all around the surrounding area. Because on that same night, Michigan and Indiana and Wisconsin all had wildfires. So that's what they think happened was a meteorite exploded over the lake and sent it all around that area and caused fires all over. But they didn't know that because they didn't have fast communication and they didn't put it together. So I think we should blame God. I don't know.
I think that lake was a big part of it because there was a lot of pollution in there, and that's how it. Yeah, it probably didn't take much to start a fire on that lake.
Well, I don't know if the lake caught fire then, but it did.
Or not the lake, the river.
The river.
Because that's where, because it jumped the river was what they were saying.
The city was growing so fast, and everything was made of wood, and it was autumn, and there were lots of leaves underneath the boardwalks.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Chicago was reborn, they made it so the buildings were farther apart, and the sidewalks were broader in order to stop that jump. To slow it down. So that's why when you're in New York, sometimes it's a bigger city. It is more crowded, but it feels a little more crowded because the sidewalks aren't as wide as they are in Chicago and the buildings are closer. So that's, so the cow is acquitted.
I got to admit too, Marian, you are a true Midwesterner because only Midwesterners do this. I'm going to show you Michigan. I'm going to show you Wisconsin. They'll hold up their hand and they'll say, it's right here. This is where I live.
Right.
All Midwesterners do that, it seems like.
Proud,
so you're
proud
from
Midwestern.
that area.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. So this is the part of the show where I actually bring up some pictures.
All right. What's this about? Let me check this out.
So I really like this picture. It looks like you and your siblings.
Yes, it is. So that is my older sister. You can tell our ages by our sizes, and my younger brother. I'm actually here in Minnesota because of my brother. He moved up here. He's a fisherman, loves the great outdoors. He moved up here maybe 30 years ago. I don't quite know. So one of the reasons why we moved up here is this state is gorgeous, and none of you should ever forget it.
We're very blessed. And this picture, just for the audience that can't see it, it looks like it's black and white, and it's probably from the mid 50s, maybe.
No, I think it's like
60s?
64 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, some early because my brother was born in 64.
Okay.
So he looks like what, 2 years old, maybe?
Possibly.
Maybe. I don't know.
And
it's
a very
hard
dapper.
He is still to this day. And my sister was quite the musician. She passed away a few years ago. But, so we had quite a great family life, really.
Yeah.
I have no traumas or anger at my parents or any of that stuff. So, and you can see my mischievousness with that smile on my face.
Oh, for sure. You were a mischievous one.
Right.
And this one, it's like a setting in Chicago, but it reminds me a lot. Have you ever seen the show The Wonder Years?
Yeah.
With the dad has the son on the shoulder and the two girls by his side. Yeah. Was this taken in front of your house in Chicago?
Yes, that's the home I grew up in. That was on a three-way dead end. So that was a cul-de-sac, and then no through traffic. So it was really, as a kid, it was ideal because there was never any traffic there. So we all ran around like a wild pack of wolves.
So it's not like
or squirrels, more like squirrels than wolves.
It's not like the Chicago of like when you think of like the gangland territory.
No. We were out in the hinterlands. We were out in Downers Grove. Like I said, there was an old farmhouse at the end of our street. Yeah. So.
And this is a god awful cute picture of you, and
Thank
you can just tell that's you.
Yeah,
it's like you in a nutshell.
That I peeked.
This black and white
right there. That's as good as I was gonna get.
And you have the knuckles resting on your.
Yes, it's like
yes.
I'm gonna bust out of here at any moment. Let me go.
So if you can go back in time and give yourself, like little Marian, a piece of advice, what would that be?
I have no regrets. And I made, like I said, I'm a deeply flawed individual, but I'm no more deeply flawed than anybody else. And I made the mistakes, which were lessons I needed to learn. Now, like I said, I had a very stable home life. I realized that I'm incredibly fortunate, and a lot of people don't have that stable platform from which to grow. So I'm forever thankful to my parents. They were married 60 years or whatever. So I'm very thankful for that. I've been married to my husband for over 40. So, that's a blessing, man. That's truly a blessing. So I was a young idiot. And aren't we all when we're young?
We are.
So, I don't know that I have any regrets. Now, I've done stupid things and I've hurt people's feelings I didn't mean to, and I made mistakes. But again, I don't know. It's just, you just be you, boo.
I love it.
I'm not
That's
saying I'm
fantastic.
perfect.
No.
I'm owning my flaws.
Right,
I'm owning
right.
them. And I have a thick skull. That's the only way I learned, right?
But sometimes you have to go, if I didn't do those stupid things or if I didn't make those mistakes,
right.
I wouldn't be who I am today.
That's how
So
I look at it,
It's
right?
a really good answer, I think. Like, you be you, and what happens, it's not good or bad. It's really what it is, and that you either learn from it and make better of it, and even the good stuff that happens to you, be thankful, right?
Yeah.
And that's just all the little things.
When I was in college, I was very worried about, this is how I really relate to my students. I was really worried about, what am I going to be? What should I, da, 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 da. And, it all turned out fine. And I got very comfortable with ambiguity and change. And I got just a little fearless and wasn't afraid to fail. I had that strong support structure of my family and my husband that allows you to give you a little room for that, right?
Yeah.
And people who don't have that slack in the system, I realize I'm blessed.
That's a very good answer. I really like that. Yeah, I find people do, and I catch myself too. Like, God, if I would have done that, or I would have done that.
Oh my gosh, I should have bought gold.
Yeah, crypto.
Yeah, there's 1,000 paths that weren't taken, but who knows where they would have gone?
Right, because you don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
And what am I? I'm having a blast and making money. How lucky can you be? I'm surrounded by people that I love and who love me. That's beautiful, man.
That's the
That's
best.
a treasure.
Yes, just being thankful. I try and work on that every day. Like, what can I be thankful for today?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to remember that, and it's not an easy thing to do because I try and do it every morning. Like, and first thing in the morning, I'm kind of force myself, what am I thankful for today? And sometimes it's like, I'm thankful that I got up on this side of the dirt, the right side of the dirt,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Just the little things.
Yeah.
So one of the other questions that I always have, because it's really about connecting, and I know you're a super connector, how do you navigate the balance between being genuinely interested and not coming across as intrusive?
Well, I guess you'd have to ask people if I have come across intrusive. I don't think I have. You have to be able to read body language, right? And there is actually, for people who aren't comfortable meeting others and networking and all that, you really can learn it. It's a learned skill. And I am an extrovert. No.
You
Really.
fooled me.
Well, you. And I naturally ask a lot of questions. Matter of fact, some people collect Beanie Babies or beer bottles. I actually collect question sets because it is. I had a boss who was really good at dissecting problems or leading you to conclusions because she asked the right questions. I thought, wow, that's an interesting skill. And then over time, I started collecting question sets. And now I actually teach people to do that. And here's a little tip for your people who might be listening. One of the smartest things I did was I started, when I was in corporate America, I started writing the questions that the senior leaders would ask and then put that in a file. So I had, the CEO was always asking these questions and the CMO was always, and pretty soon I could see their mental models. And that's huge. And so when I would go into a meeting with the CEO, I knew what questions he was going to ask ahead of time, and I would answer them before he could ask them. I also would be in meetings, and I would ask the CEO-like questions, which made people perceive me differently.
Wow.
So, but you have to be careful with questions. Like there's all kinds. I have a class on that. Are you surprised? There's like the 5 whys. Ask why. But you have to be really careful because that can be intrusive and almost accusatory. Well, why did you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you do that? So to your point around how do you, be genuine versus intrusive, you have to be able to, realize what's acceptable questions to ask in polite society and decide when you want to cross that border and when you don't, and where you can cross it, and be able to read body language, etc. But I'm genuinely interested in people. There is so much I can learn.
Yeah.
And so if my questions have ever gotten intrusive, I apologize. But I don't think they have. I'm genuinely curious and open-minded. I'll share another little, I'm going to go off the rails here. I want to share something really fun about how I've been learning about Minnesota. And it goes to the question of curiosity. So questions and curiosity and connecting with people. There's a thread there, I swear. Hang with me.
Yeah, you betcha.
So you come to a new state. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? And my husband and I came up with this not my cup of tea tour. So we would look at events that were coming up for the weekend, and we look at things and say, well, that's really not our cup of tea. Therefore, we have to do it. All right. So what does that mean we did? We went to a preppers convention. Now, I'm not a prepper, and we can't, but if you come at it with curiosity and questions and openness, like an anthropologist, what is this tribe? What are their values and beliefs? And do it not to make fun of anybody, but an open curiosity, right? It's like, oh, there really is something to this. We went to a Comic-Con where people were dressed up like Klingons and all that kind of stuff. Man, those people are incredibly creative. I mean, complete respect. We went to a drag queen bingo night, had a ball, went to a rodeo. I'm not really a cowgirl kind of person, but wow, that was a whole interesting tribe going on there. So the idea of having curiosity and asking questions and doing it authentically. And, like I said, if I've offended anybody, they kept it to themselves, and I want to thank them. But honestly, I find people fascinating. Yeah. Really? Aren't they? I mean, you are.
I agree. I agree. And what you just said is perfect, I think. That intrusiveness. And it's just not them being intrusive, it's you being intrusive or vice versa. Mm-hmm. But when you feel that way, I think a good way of always figuring it out is asking through curiosity and not assumptions.
Right. Oh, assumptions will get you. Well, and it's tough sometimes to even realize what is an assumption.
Yeah.
Right? So the assumptions can be so insidious and buried that you don't even realize that's where you're really coming from. And these are the kind of questions that we like to do, have around Morning Brew and Big Ideas.
No, awesome.
So,
yeah, I think that's great. And then my final question for you is, who's someone you would love to hear or see on this podcast, and why?
Well, I'll bring two names. Because one would never do it. And that's my son, Joe. So my son, Joe, is the rock of Archstone. And he does all the work, and I do all the glad handing.
Kind of like what Dan does here.
We all have our strengths, right? And so he would never take a bow. He would never, come and do anything like this. And I know that, and I would not ask him to. But he's the strength and the force behind Archstone. He's the reason why it is, and he does all the hard work. And I do the education, right? That's a real differentiator for Archstone, is the fact that we have more networking and educational events than any other co-working space in the state. I don't, in 2025, we'll see how we did, or in 2024. That's a real differentiator for us. That's my role, is to be the face, but he does the work, and we are co-owners, we are partners, and it has been phenomenal for me to have the opportunity to work with him the last 2 years. A very intelligent young man, and I'm thrilled we were able to do this together. But I know he would never do a podcast.
Yeah, that's really, just seeing other, and I've seen workspaces, but I feel like that's the big differentiator, right? I mean, that's what makes you guys different.
We actively create the community.
Yeah.
People who are members, I actively sell, right? Yep. So I try to make the connections for them as well, right?
No, that's awesome. And your second person
she would show up, and she'd be darn good at it, would be Lori Higgins.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Her role in the ecosystem is phenomenal. I think people don't realize how much influence she has, positive impact she has in our community. I have a lot of respect for her. I'm on the board of Metro North Chamber and enjoy it thoroughly. And I think she'd be a great person to talk about not just the business, but also government. Yeah, because she deals a lot with the legislature, et cetera. Represents our business as well in government. I think she'd be a fascinating person.
She would be.
Yeah.
I have talked to her. She's very smart when it comes to Chamber of Commerce stuff, and she's a student of the game of businesses and how the commerce chambers can help businesses. So I love that suggestion.
And she does a great job running the board. So
Yep.
before I applied to be on the board, I asked other members of the board, I've been involved in dysfunctional boards and I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, if I go for this, is this well run? It is well run.
That's
It's
good.
phenomenal. I just have very high marks for her.
I've been on a few boards, and some of them can get a little bit dicey, especially if there's they just take, and we've seen it. They say they don't just take anybody on the board, but some boards get desperate because they don't have enough volunteers, and now you have a clash of different personalities that aren't on the same mission page, and it's not clarified really well. So I think Lori would be fantastic. So,
bring her on board. She would be great.
I think she would be
the
too.
podcast.
I think I'm going to do that. I will be asking her pretty shortly here.
Mm-hmm.
But this kind of starts concluding our show. But I did bring you a little something that's not a full bucket of salt. But first, just a little something to thank you for being on our show.
Like and subscribe.
And of course, you get a going away mug with the Twin City Tales. And the one thing that I really love about you is, after talking to a lot of people that are in your Archstone workplace, you really do make a difference. And never forget that you are a difference maker, and that you can put on your sheet.
I love this.
On your desk. Yes, it's
I love
cute.
it. I'm going to put this on my LinkedIn profile.
Oh, perfect. Perfect, because you are making a difference in people's businesses.
I am blessed to be surrounded by people like Sammy.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
Yes.
This is truly a great experience for my son and I.
And I know you are just a workaholic, and we talked a little bit about you wanting to see more of Minnesota. So I got you an insider's guide to Minnesota places. So you can take some time, maybe on a weekend. Not that you have a lot of weekends right now, it sounds like, but
I will at the beginning of the year.
You can hit up some of those places in Minnesota that are really, really cool. So
I appreciate this. And, these are very thoughtful gifts, and I really appreciate the thought that went into them. I asked your son if you drank or not, because I was actually going to bring whiskey, because one of the things I'm trying to learn is how to do whiskey tastings.
Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't do it because I didn't know if you drank or not. But
I don't. I sometimes do. Like, I did go to Jack Daniel's distillery, and that was really cool.
Okay.
And they have a bourbon, so a mash. But yes, I
didn't know if I should do it. So I'm glad I didn't, because it's not really your thing.
No, it is.
So I'll have one for you.
Perfect. I love it. I dig it. Well, Marian, I can't thank you enough for being on Twin Sea Tales podcast.
Thank you.
Been a huge pleasure. And if you want to learn more about Marian Cook, you can visit www.archstoneworkspace.com. Again, that's www.archstoneworkspace.com, or visit us on our Twin City Tales Facebook page, and we'll have information on there for you. And as we roll out of here, I'd like to thank Chris Hockey again for the use of his song Thanks, with no pun intended. And this podcast is powered by Twin Sea Heating, Air, and Electric. And until the next time, you can't go wrong with Wyman Wong on Twin Sea Tales podcast.
I love it.
This song goes out to my family, to all the ones who died before me. I'm sure the family life made you do things you never wanted to, so I wrote this